everyone, and welcome back to Marvellous Maths. Now, as you can see from the introduction of this video, there are lots of different situations in our everyday lives where we come across fractions. Now, how many of you have ever had to cut a piece of cake or a pizza in halves or even quarters to share with somebody else? And I bet you made sure that those parts were exactly equal so that it was fair. So in today's lesson, we are going to be identifying fractions of shapes. So let's warm up our maths brains with our 5 a day. And this time I want you to challenge yourselves to see if you can beat me to your answer. But if you need more time, of course, you may pause the video. Question 1, 13 plus 8. 13 plus 8 is 21. Well done. 13 in your head, 8 on your fingers, and count on to 21. Well done. 16 plus 4 plus 4. Ready? 16 plus 4 plus 4 equals 24. Well done. 16 plus 4 first, so 16 in your head, 4 on your fingers, and that takes us to 20. Then keep the 20 in your head and add on the second 4, gets us to 24. Well done. 33 take away 6. Ready? 33 take away 6 equals 27. Well done. 33 in your head, 6 on your fingers, and you count backwards, and we get 27. 34 plus 60. Ready? 34 plus 60 equals 94. We put 34 in our head, we put 6 on our fingers, but remember, it's a multiple of 10, and there are 6 tens in 60, so we're counting forward 6 tens, and that gets us to 94. Well done. To do that question, you could also use a 100 square if you wanted to. You would find our starting number, which was 34, here on the 100 square, and for counting tens on our 100 square, we move down, okay, and we need to move down 6 spaces, 6 tens, okay, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and we'd land on 94, and our answer is 94. Okay, so if you've got a 100 square at home, you can feel free to use that. Next question, a quarter of 28. Ready? Quarter of 28 equals 7. So remember, there are 2 ways that we can do this. You could use your ladybird or circle method. You would split your circle into 4 parts, because we're dividing by 4, finding a quarter. And then you would share 28 dots between those 4 parts. And then you would count up the amount of dots in one circle. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That gets you to the answer of 7. Or you could use your 4 times tables knowledge and count forwards in your 4s until you get 28. And you would end up with 7 fingers up. Okay, so either of those methods is absolutely fine. Well done. Okay, moving on to identifying fractions of shapes. So here is what we are going to be learning in this lesson. So we're going to be looking at finding half, finding quarter, finding 1/3, finding 3/4, and finding 2/4. And there's also going to be some challenge questions at the end. So let's start off by thinking about what a fraction is. So here we have a pizza. This is a whole pizza. And we can also say that there is one pizza. So if there is one of something, it is a whole. Okay, one equals a whole. It's a whole of something. So if there is less than a whole or less than one, this is a fraction. Anything less than a whole is a fraction. And a fraction means parts of a whole. For example, this fraction shown by this pizza here is half. So we haven't got the whole pizza anymore. We've only got part of it. We've got half of it. So that's when it becomes a fraction. A fraction is written in two parts. We have the numerator on the top and the denominator on the bottom. You don't necessarily have to remember the words numerator and denominator, but for my year 2s, that's something that you will need to remember when you get to year 3 next year. Okay? You can call them the top and the bottom number if you like. The numerator, the top number, is the number of parts that we're thinking about. And the denominator, the bottom number, is the total number of parts. So here are some examples. This triangle here. So one part of the triangle is shaded. The numerator is 1. That's the number of parts that we're thinking about, the number that's shaded. And there are 2 parts of the triangle in total. So the denominator, the bottom number, is 2. So we've got 1 out of 2 parts shaded, and we call that a half. For this one, we have got 1 part shaded. That's the number we're thinking about. So 1 is the numerator. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 parts in total out of the whole shape. So our denominator is 4. We've got 1 out of 4 parts shaded. We call this fraction a quarter, or 1/4. For this one, we've got 1 part, again, shaded. That's the number we're thinking about. So our numerator is 1. And we have got 1, 2, 3 parts in total. So our denominator is 3. And we've got 1 out of 3 in total. And we call this fraction 1/3. So moving on to finding half of a shape. To find half of a shape, you cut it into 2 equal pieces. And each of these pieces is half of the shape. You can see we've got 1/2 here and the other half there. 1/2 and the other half. 1/2 and the other. Okay? Where would you cut these 2 shapes to form 2 equal halves? You can pause the screen here. Where would you draw an imaginary line to cut these shapes in 2 equal halves? You ready for me to show you? We would cut them straight down the middle, making sure that each half is equal. Okay, so we've got 2 parts and 1 part is shaded. 1 out of 2 in total. 1 out of 2, a half. Sometimes there are different ways that we can find half, okay, instead of just splitting it straight down the middle from top to bottom. So here are 3 rectangles. Can you find half of these shapes in 3 different ways? You'll need to pause the screen here and think about 3 different ways that you could find half of these shapes. Okay, you ready? Let's go through it. So here are 3 different ways that you could show half of these shapes. We could go across diagonally, and we've got 2 equal halves. We could go across the middle from the left to the right. We've got 2 equal halves like that, or from top to bottom, 2 equal halves. Well done. Okay, finding a quarter. Now, to find a quarter of a shape, you cut it into 4 equal pieces. In each of these pieces is a quarter of the shape. Where would you cut each of these shapes to form 4 equal parts? You can pause the screen here and have a think. Are you ready? Let's go through it. So we would cut each of these shapes down the middle from top to bottom and along the middle from left to right. So cutting in half and then in half again. And that would form 1, 2, 3, 4 parts that are all equal. And it's the same for the rectangle. Down the middle from top to bottom and down the middle from left to right, forming 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Sometimes we can find a quarter in different ways, like we can with a half. So for these 3 shapes, can you find a quarter of these shapes in 3 different ways? You're going to need to pause the screen and think about how you would cut each of these shapes in 3 different ways so that they're in 4 equal parts. Okay, are you ready? Let's have a look. Here are 3 different ways that we could find a quarter. Now, it doesn't matter which way round you got these. Okay, this is just the way that I've done it. So for the first one, it was the standard from top to bottom and from left to right to form 4 equal parts. Okay, the second one here, I've gone in 2 diagonal lines to form a cross, and that forms 4 equal parts that are triangles here, but still 4 equal parts. And for the final one, I've gone down in 4 lines here, 4 vertical lines to form 1, 2, 3, 4 longer rectangles. Okay, but still 4 equal parts. Okay, well done. Okay, moving on to finding 1/3 now. So to find a third of a shape, you cut it into 3 equal pieces. Each of these pieces is a third of the shape. So very similar to how we find a quarter and how we find a half. Can you find 1/3 of these shapes? Where would you cut them to make 3 equal parts? So this one here might be fairly tricky, but I'd like you to have a go. So pause the screen here. Where would you cut these to make 3 equal parts? Okay, you ready? Let's have a look. So here is how I would cut these shapes to form 3 equal parts. So for this one, I've gone from left to right to form 3 equal rectangles. Okay, you could have gone from top to bottom as well and had your rectangles the other way around. Okay, and for this one, I have, it's a bit of a funny way of splitting a shape, but I've split it into 3 equal parts here. Okay, so each of these parts is sort of like a diamond shape. A little bit trickier, but still 3 equal parts, and each of those parts is a third. Now, like with a half and with a quarter, sometimes we can find a third in different ways. So here are 2 squares, and I'd like you to find 1/3 of these shapes in 2 different ways. So you're going to need to cut these shapes into 3 equal parts in 2 different ways. So pause the screen here. Okay, let's go through this one. So here are 2 different ways that you could split these shapes into 3 equal parts. So from top to bottom to form 3 equal rectangles going vertically, or from left to right to form 3 equal rectangles going horizontally. Okay, both of them are split into 3 equal parts. So well done if you got that one right. Okay, moving on to slightly trickier fractions of shapes. So now we're finding 3 quarters. So to find 3/4 of a shape, we first divide it into 4 equal parts, like with a quarter. And each of these parts is 1/4 of the shape. We know this already from finding 1/4. 3 of these sections will make the fraction 3/4. Okay, so 1 of these sections is 1/4, but 3 of them together is 3/4. 1 out of 4 and 3 out of 4. Very similar, finding 2/4. So to find 2/4 of a shape, you first divide it into 4 equal parts, like I've done here. And each of these parts is 1/4 of the shape. 2 of these parts will make the fraction 2/4. Okay, so we've got 2 out of a total of 4 parts, 2/4. Again for this one, 2 out of a total of 4 equal parts, 2/4. I've got a question here that I'd like you to think about. What do you notice about the fraction 2/4? Is 2/4 the same as another fraction we've looked at? Maybe pause the screen here and have a think. What's it the same as? Have you thought about it? 2/4 is the same as 1/2. Okay, you can see that visually here. 2/4 is the same as splitting into half. Okay, here are some questions that I'd like you to answer yourselves. So you can get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and I'd like you to write down the fraction of each of these shapes that is shaded. So what fraction of each of these shapes is shaded? You have got 9 questions here to complete. So here are your answers. So I'd like you to compare the answers on the screen with the answers that you have got written down. So the first one is 1/4. Second one, going along here, is 3/4. Number 3 is 2/4, or if you have written down half, that is correct as well. Next one is 1 or a whole. Okay, you could write down 4/4 or 4/4, but that's a whole. But all of the parts of this shape are shaded. So this is a whole, or 1. Next one is 1/4. This one is a half. The next one's a half again. 3/4, and the last one was 2/3. Well done. So here is a challenge task. So before you try and tackle this challenge task, you need to remember that the numerator is the number of parts that we're thinking about, the number of parts that are shaded. And the denominator is the total number of parts. So pause the screen and have a go at these trickier fractions if you would like to. So get ready for your answers for the challenge task. Here are your answers. So I'd like you to have a look at the answers on the screen and compare them with the answers that you have written down. And I'd like you to mark your own work. So well done if you tackled this challenge task. Thank you everyone for joining me for some maths today, and well done for all your hard work. I look forward to seeing you again on Thursday for some more Marvellous Maths. So keep working hard, stay safe, and I'll see you very soon. Bye everyone.